And we're live.
Hey everybody, welcome. How's it going? Can you hear me, Shawn?
I gotcha. You have me?
I gotcha.
Perfect. Just
All right.
saying hello to all of our folks in chat here. 23 people hanging out. I seen Christopher's in here. Ken is hanging out, and we'll let everyone else sound off when they jump in. So I'm just going to make one small adjustment. There we go. I'm just trying a slightly different aspect ratio tonight on the screen, so I widened it out a little bit. I want to just give that a look and see what it looks like tonight. So it's just going to add a little bit of different ratio and see if we can get a little more action on the screen here. So how are you doing, Joe? Post LVO, you made it home safe and sound. You worked today, like me, likely.
I did. I'm very exhausted, gotta be honest. Went right to bed pretty much when I got home. I came home. I had to go to school last night, which I took the day off work, but man, exhausting. I got 2 hours of sleep before the flight. Me and
Yep.
Shawn went out. We saw a Cirque du Soleil show, which was awesome. It was the show Ka, for anyone out there. If you haven't seen those in Vegas, are incredible. But I mean, I didn't get to sleep until about 2 a.m. Had to get up at 4 a.m. for the flight. Got to the airport. Actually ended up running into Jay Shalansky. Sat down with him at the airport. He was on the same flight, so that was kind of funny. But yeah, it was just a long, exhausting day traveling, and but the weekend was fantastic. How about you? I heard you were pretty delayed up there.
Yeah, well, so I was supposed to go to Joe to the airport in the morning. Obviously, Joe knows, but then my flight got like probably around 11 o'clock. I think I got the email that my flight was pushed back. So, and it was like pushed back to like 11:30. So I was like not going to go to the airport at 5. Ended up kind of getting up at like 9 or sorry 7 o'clock, and then I was talking to my wife and she kind of gave me a little bit of a scare, but it made perfect sense because we couldn't figure out if the email was 11:30 Saskatchewan time, which would have made it 9:30, which meant I was actually late getting to the airport, or if
Mm.
it was 11:30 LVO time. So I raced to the airport at 7:30, only to find out my flight was in fact 11:30. Then it got bumped back a little bit further. Then I ended up getting into Calgary. I could have made my original flight, but the airline just rebooked me onto a later flight anyway. So then I
Mm.
ended up getting here like 9 o'clock last night.
Uh,
Um, and then I worked today like you. So
mm.
yeah, just general. But like we should probably put this in perspective. I'm pretty sure we never got one night's worth of sleep from Thursday to Sunday.
Yeah.
We never went to bed early. We always got up early. For some reason,
Hmm.
Joe and I were like waking up at like 5:30, no matter what time we went to bed.
Yep.
We're eating bacon sandwiches by 7 a.m. every day. Our $7 coffee, tea,
Yeah.
and bacon sandwich. Turned out that was a recipe for success for me at LVO. So bacon
Yeah.
sandwiches and $7 cups of tea. So
Yeah. Yeah. Vegas is a little pricey if you guys haven't been there, but it's awesome. I mean, it's a really interesting experience. I mean, so the one thing that's a little off-putting about Vegas, if you've never been there and if you're kind of used to the rest of the country, is that you could still smoke cigarettes and cigars like indoors. So everything is just like a giant cigarette cloud, which is kind of like a hard thing to get adjusted to if you're not used to that. And everything's super expensive. But the city itself is like it's got a million things to do. So we found stuff to do every night. We had good meals. And the tournament was run really well. It was huge. I mean, it was the biggest Legion tournament I've ever been to, right? It was like 120 people.
yeah, so maybe what we'll do, I'm going to say a quick hello to all the folks in chat, and then maybe what we'll do, Joe, is we'll talk about all of our non-LVO, non-Legion related things, the fun things that we did. We'll start off with there. We'll
Mhm.
let people kind of jump in chat, then we'll get into kind of our LVO game. So cool to welcome to our show. So Darren, who you played in team event and I played in singles, is joined us in chat. So hello, Darren. Ken's in here. LJ's in. Hello,
Hello.
LJ. Pop Mechanics in here. We were hitting 30 here just a minute ago, so
Nice.
quite
Nice.
popular in here. So as Joe said, we went to a Cirque du Soleil, so that was cool. Maybe we'll kind of start off with Thursday. I got there 10 o'clock in the morning, so I kind of did a pre scout. Michael, who we spent quite a bit of the weekend with, actually got there a couple days ahead, so he was really truthfully the advance party of the group. But yeah, I sort of hung out, waited for Joe to arrive. Registration was for us quite uneventful because Michael and I sort of took the lead, got in line. We were first, but then one individual migrated ahead of us, and he was like super excited. So we just let him be first because he just wanted to be. And then yeah, opened up at 5 o'clock like clockwork, which was awesome. We simultaneously registered because they had like 4 desks, and we were in. So kind of the seemingly rush of Thursday to get your ticket wasn't anything for us. So
yeah, it's so funny because. So the whole time that you guys are in line, you're like, I'm second in line. Hurry up and get here. Hurry up and get here. And I'm just like frantically texting. I'm like, I'm on this shuttle from the airport and it's stopping at every single casino except for the Bally's. And it's like 4:45. I'm freaking out. I'm like, do I have to sprint? Because the tickets go on. The line opened up at 5 to go in and get your badge. By the time I got there, it was like 10 to 5 and the line was like hundreds of people long. So
yeah.
I just kind of snuck right up to the second spot and said hi to Shawn and then just kind of snuck in and got my badge and didn't have to wait in that line. Last year, I believe I waited like 2 hours to get my badge. And my girlfriend was not too happy about it because we had tickets that night to see a Cirque du Soleil show last year. So we were like, oh, am I going to have to get out of line? Am I going to have to get out of line? But this year it worked out. Thank you to Shawn for holding that spot, getting there early, and that worked out. So we had the rest of the night to just chill and go do stuff.
Yeah. I'm doing a little test on Ecamm tonight. They had a little bit of software update, so I can actually throw comments up on the screen, and they auto-dissolve, so that's cool. So they're just up for 10 seconds. So lots of new Ecamm stuff to test out here, too.
Cool.
Joe and I are also testing a new camera. It's called Virtual Cam. So Joe's actually seeing a much better image. And we have that. And then when we get to Friday night fights this week, I'm super excited because I spent the 3 days prior to LVO really tweaking that. So I think you guys will be excited for that too. So yeah, so we got our tickets. That was cool. We sort of just hung out. We scouted around. Our location this year wasn't the same as last year. So I think we were in like the Skyview Lounge.
Yeah, we were on
like
the 13th floor or something last year.
Yeah, so this year we were in a slightly different location. I actually preferred the location better than last year because I kind of felt like it was a little bit more close, and in the sense that like we had tons of room to play, but I could kind of see other games like both beside, in front, and behind me. So I kind of really felt like the buzz and the hive of Legion was a bit more intense in there as opposed to being spread out across this huge room. So.
Yeah, the tables looked great too, by the way.
Yeah, they did.
But I guess we could like get to that in a minute. I don't know. We were talking about our days, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Want to talk $100 steak dinner?
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Very expensive. So
yes,
it was a good. Yeah.
Go ahead, Shawn.
I was just going to say the recommendation by Michael, the restaurant that we went to, was awesome. Good candor with the waiter too. He was fun. The food was awesome. Am I doing $100 steak dinner every night? No, but I think that it was a nice experience to have that. But I think you should talk about our even better dinner experience when we went to the Hibachi restaurant.
Oh yeah, so we had a nice time. We went to the Benihana. It was a couple miles away. It wasn't like near the Bally's, but you know, they have Benihanas out by me, and they have other hibachi places, but I've never seen one that was as extravagant and awesome looking as the one out in Vegas. I mean, this thing was 2 stories tall. We ate on the 2nd floor. There was like a whole like indoor like little river and pond and stuff, and there was the aesthetics inside of this place were awesome. I mean, beautiful place. Really fun show. We put up a picture. We put up a quick video actually on our page of this guy, the chef, making me close my eyes, and he's like, "I'm gonna throw this bowl of rice at you," and then he just like gently drops it into my hand and stuff. So that was funny. Everyone got a laugh out of that. The guy was really impressive, doing all the tricks that you would expect, flipping the shrimp into his hat, all the stuff, doing all the tricks. It was good. It was a good meal. I think that was your first time having hibachi, right, Shawn?
Well, actually, it was the second time because the first night I was home last night, I actually tried hibachi in my own kitchen. It did not go near as good. So,
You were
yeah.
basically just flinging food around and making a mess.
I kept saying butterfly, and my wife just didn't get it, and it was like all over the kitchen. So yeah, and it turns out you can have open flame in the kitchen. So anyway, yeah. So
Yeah,
don't. It was not an instructional video on how to do your own hibachi meal. That's for sure. So crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
but no, that was fun though. That was a good meal. Then we had that nice steak dinner the next night. Third night, we basically that was the night of the team tournament, right? And also like day two of Legion. So I didn't really watch too many games because I was playing in the team tournament. Um, and that was a fun night. We were just we just kind of took it easy, and then the last night we went to the MGM to the Cirque du Soleil show. It's called Ka. That show was pretty visually stunning. That's my second time I've seen one of those shows. I saw a different one, the Beatles Love, last year. I couldn't recommend them more. If you've never seen a Cirque du Soleil show, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. They're insane, right? I mean, what more can I say?
Yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was a little freaked out at first because like they were literally coming out of everywhere and like up from behind us, down the aisles, swinging from the ceilings. They were like shooting like fake arrows, but they were actually like at one point they actually were launching arrows. So that was like really
Yeah.
awesome. There was a lot of fire, so if you're not a fire fan, then don't go to that one. I do particularly love when they threw the guy on the cell phone over the stage into a pit to start it as the get off your cell phone warning to everyone. So,
Yeah, and he
um,
he caught on fire and like blew up.
yeah,
That was
pretty
awesome.
pretty awesome. So yeah, it's a great PSA
Yeah.
announcement right there. So, so yeah, that was pretty much what we did. I mean, good meals. Hung out with a ton of people. We had a blast.
Hmm.
LVO. I'm not ever disappointed, but I wish that the vending area was like a little bit more robust because like I never get down there and um, when I did go down, like they already started packing up on Sunday and Thursday
Hmm.
they were just setting up. So gaming all day Friday, you literally have no chance to get there. And then I played team event on Saturday, so no chance to get there. And then I played on Sunday, and again when I went down when I was finished, and I was finished earlier than the narrative event. They're already packing up. So I mean, it was just a little bit disappointing in the sense that I would have liked to have seen things, but from what I saw, it seemed small. It almost seemed smaller than
Yeah,
last year, but.
I would say if you're looking to go to a convention to do some shopping at a vendor hall, like Adepticon or Gen Con are 10 times better than what like LVO is offering in terms of vendor options. I mean, they had like the cool, they had the GW booth, they had the Battle Foam, they had, the mainstays, but I just noticed that they had kind of a smaller floor space, and they just kind of had a limited selection. I mean, Battle Foam ran out of Magnarax like right away, but if you go to Adepticon, I mean, they have probably 5 times as many. But also, that's just like a huge wargaming convention, whereas this is also a big wargaming convention, but for like much less games, I think overall.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, either way though, there was some good shopping to be done. It wasn't as crazy as like Adepticon or Gen Con, you know.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to compare any vending area to Gen Con. It's like it's
Yeah.
outrageous. I don't have a comparison for Adepticon. I will, I guess, after this year. But yeah, so it's not a disappointment, but it was just a little bit smaller, and I would have liked to have spent a little bit more time looking around because like when I went there, everyone was kind of packing up, and I kind of felt like a nuisance. Sort
Hmm.
of
Yeah, yeah.
looking through the stuff, and I didn't want to hold anybody up because I realized their weekend's over just like mine. So, just interesting in chat here, LJ has posted, and I'm specifically thinking he's referring to LVO, but he's saying next year it's going to go main floor and moving to the next floor next year and moving to the Rio in 2022. So, um,
Oh, okay. So it's
yeah,
going to be at a different casino.
well, I think maybe he's referring
Interesting.
maybe main
Interesting.
floor is Legion on the main floor, and then maybe the Rio in 2022 in general. So he can verify that for sure. But sounds good.
Cool.
32 people in chat too, by the way. Cannot say 33. Can't say enough about all the folks hanging out and really making this show worthwhile. I mean, when we're doing it for 5 people, we love it. We're doing it for 30 plus people. It's awesome. So let's crack into our weekend. We want to break down, day. We obviously didn't play Thursday, but want to talk about Friday. Maybe
sure.
Overall general, let you go first, and then if you want to talk about any game specifics, we can do that, and we'll just kind of work our way through day by day of LVO.
Oh yeah, sure. So I brought my 8 activation Grievous Dooku list, the same one I took to the Prime. I kind of had a feeling going in that it wasn't like the ultra competitive list. I could have probably first of all, I almost played Palpatine because I kind of wanted to do like a 1-year anniversary like repeat of Palpatine, but I ultimately decided, hey, I just painted up this army. I had put in all this work getting this army ready. I played it at the Prime. It was fresh in my mind, and I'm going to play it because I told myself that overall this year, I think I'm just going to stick to the 2 new factions just for fun. So I brought this 8 activation Grievous Dooku list. Turns out that like there were a few other people that brought a very similar list. There was, I don't know 100%. I'm not 100% sure about the faction breakdown, but I didn't see any droidicas when I was walking around. But I saw like several Grievous Dookus, so that was cool. Ultimately, and I've said this before, my hardest matchup is the mirror match.
Yeah.
So I played my 4 games. I ended up going 2-2. I lost my first game to Brad Nerfly.
Hanging out in chat. He's in chat tonight. Yep.
Hey, how you doing, Brad? Brad, by the way, was like a judge in the team event and like was on stream and stuff. If you were watching like the LVO live stream, he was commentating for a while, hanging out. So he's a local guy from Chicago, the Chicagoland area, and he's a super good Vader player. So he played like a Vader Shoreline list, which, to be honest, I can't remember the last time I've played against a Vader. And it was, I didn't really know what the best approach was. I mean, he had Vader, he had a Royal Guard unit, and then a bunch of shore troopers and snipers and stuff. He also had a stormtrooper medic and then a naked stormtrooper just to cap objectives. And it was a really strong list. I know he's been playing Vader almost exclusively competitively the whole time. Me and him have been at the same event like several times and have never actually played each other. So it was fun to finally get to play him. Super close game. Ultimately what ended up happening is based on my deployment, I knew there was going to come a point in the game where I was just going to have to commit to diving with Grievous and Dooku and just deal with the repercussions, or else they weren't going to do anything. And so I ended up doing that, and I eliminated like a lot of his core units and like a sniper and stuff, but I kept his Vader healthy. And that ultimately ended up being a mistake because he just went for like the turn 5 or 6 Master of Evil, which was just like devastating to my B1 squad. He ended up killing both Grievous and Dooku. I think we pretty much like tied on objectives, or he won by like a unit leader or something. It was like a super close game. I think we thought we tied. We added up all the points. He would have won on points because he killed both Grievous and Dooku. But then we were like, wait a second. I think because it's like intercept the transmissions, you actually won like 5-4 or something. So either way, depending on how it would have played out, he would have won. It was basically like a lone stormtrooper unit leader that like got the game, 1 activation ahead of me. Awesome, super tight, super close game. Couldn't have asked for a better game. Literally broke a sweat. It was a sweaty game. So
Yeah.
and Brad definitely broke a sweat too, because he lost a bet. I got to talk about this because this is hilarious. He lost a bet to LJ, and he had to play the entire first round of the game in a Vader costume with the mask on. So I kept telling him, I'm like, you could take it off, man. Don't worry. Like, I'm like, you look like you're struggling over here. And he's like, I lost a bet. I got to stay. I got to keep the mask on for the first round. Takes the mask off, and he's like pouring sweat. I'm like, oh my God. So it was awesome and hilarious. Good time all around. Really enjoyable game. Anytime you lose your first game of a tournament, it's like disheartening. but
Yeah.
it was good.
I will say this as a consolation prize. Some of my Terrain Studio boys messaged me today, and they were actually quite disappointed that I didn't get to play somebody in a costume on the weekend. So,
Oh,
yeah, so you got one up on me there for sure, Joe.
yeah. So that was that. That was awesome. Second game, I play the mirror match, Moisture Evaporators. I literally played this guy that was like playing the exact same list. We tied. I lost on points. It was
Yeah.
basically just like, oh, one more unit leader was dead than yours. It's just how it goes, Um, just a stalemate Moisture Vap game that one extra B1 squad died in my army. So that's always like heartbreaking. So I'm like 0-2. I'm like, well, it's not my year. This is just a bad year for me. I ended up winning my next two games. My third game, I played a tank shoreline Veers list, and I ended up killing everything but the tank, and I lost like I want to say a collective like 6B1s. So that was like pretty devastating, and it worked out pretty well. And then my final game um, was a pretty interesting game as well. It was a Jin triple rotaries army, and we also played Vaps, but I was red player. But it was Jin Sabine. Let me not leave out Sabine. Uh, and what happened was he kind of committed to most of his army to like one VAP, and I had to cross a river that was like difficult terrain to get to that VAP. But it was relatively close to one of my VAPs. Like it was like outside of range 2, but fairly close. And because we were playing limited visibility, I did the whole like move up, cap my VAP, set up a bunch of standbys on that side, and then just like double move safely towards him. Open the next turn with the 1-pip and just crash into his like blob of guys that are hovering around his VAP, which included Sabine. Got into melee with Sabine, had her dead at the start of turn 2, and I basically just wiped that whole VAP. Meanwhile, I'm like shooting rockets into his ATRTs. I killed them pretty quickly. So ultimately, that was another game that like essentially could have ended in a tabling, but we just called it when like I think just like Leia and like one Rebel veteran unit was still alive, and my whole army was like alive and healthy. I think he just was like, "There's no way I could do anything." So it was like two very close to ties that ended in losses. One of them was a direct tie that ended in a loss. And then my other two games are like basically tablings. So, and I think that's kind of the way that list just plays. It's like you either table your opponent or you lose your characters and you kind of fall apart.
Yeah, we've talked about that before too.
Yep, and I mean nothing changed, right? So
No.
the funny thing is we roll into day 2. It's a team event. Me and Shawn are playing the same list, but I'll let you talk about your day 1 because you had a much more successful day 1 than me. So
yeah, it was fun all around. I mean, you got to define success. I mean, sometimes you can define success on the fact that you played a list well. Sometimes you'll define it on wins. Sometimes you'll define it on who you played, that sort of stuff. So I had a really good time this year. I had a good time last year too. So let me not downplay last year. But I did slightly better this year, and I was really happy to. I was a little underprepared, I think, going to LVO. This year because I hadn't got, well, I felt anyway, because I hadn't got as many reps in with the list that I took. I had just played components of it. I had been playing like my Leia, Naked Trooper, Chewie components in skirmish. I had played my veterans and Tauntaun, so I kind of got my Tauntaun play there. But I mashed it all together, and if you're not familiar with my list, it's Leia, Chewie, 5 Naked Troopers, 2 Sniper, 3 Tauntaun, Con Jammer, Tauntauns. So 12 activations. Funny story before the tournament, myself, Joe, Jeff Arney, and Al Paz were all hanging out in our hotel room. And I looked around and we were kind of talking about lists, and I quickly realized that all 3 of the people in that room were the 3 people playing 12 activation lists on Friday. Like we were 100% of the 12 activation players. So and then before I talk about my games too, I should talk about so Jeff was playing my list. I call it my list. Jeff was playing the list that I was also playing, and we got talking about tactics and blocking tanks with tauntauns. And I gave him this quick little trick about how to maneuver the tauntauns in a certain way to get off a ram, do proper coherency, and block tanks, because I talked about heavy armor being kind of a troublesome thing for the list, and I'll talk about my heavy armor play as well. And so Jeff, studiously took mental notes, and he was really excited. I think it was in this like game one. He like comes over afterwards, shows me a picture that he's pulled off this tank block with the tauntauns, and I was like, yes, I was like more excited for him to do that than I was for my actual win there. So, but yeah, so I ended up going 4-0 on Friday, which was a huge surprise to me. I think more surprisingly was I only dropped 6 activations over the course of 4 games. And 3 of them were in my mirror match against Jeff, who I played in the 3rd round. So a little disappointing to knock Jeff out of contention in the 3rd round, him and I in the mirror match. I think that came down more to probably reps with the list and making a few less errors. Not that Jeff made a lot of errors, but in mirror matches it sometimes only takes 1 slip up. You're matching card for card, and if you can just kind of get that 1-up play, sometimes that's a difference maker. So, but let me go back to. Jeff said he just sent me a funny pic, so I can just imagine what it is. Next time Joe goes on a talk here, Jeff, I'll check that out because I think I know what picture it is. So game 1, I got to play Darren, who's in chat tonight, and he did not know about our stream. I told him, and here he is tonight, so hanging out with us, so that's awesome.
Cool.
But Darren and I played, obviously my list, and I played his clone list. And it was Bark Speeder, I want to say maybe 6 clone troopers. No, actually it was 5 clone troopers, Obi and Rex. And I think so. Darren is admittedly a newer player, and obviously clones are fairly new. So we had a great game. We openly kind of exchanged some techniques and tips as I was playing. So, but he made me work, of course, as everyone does. So he started off with Rex's card, and I'm sure exactly what it was, but the one that extends range to give them the range 4. And so what I did is I positioned 2 snipers out and open, firing on the middle objective. So he made the play to push 2 clone troopers forward to get shots on my snipers. Now he was unaware that I had positioned both sniper, the additional man, out of the line of sight. And so we put shots in. They weren't the best shots based on dice rolls. I was able to knock some down to cover, heavy cover on the snipers. I was then able to spend dodge tokens, which I had put on from Leia's take cover. I activated Leia first on coordinated bombardment. And then I was able to Guardian onto Chewie. So he kind of learned about positioning with snipers, how snipers can make a lot of shots disappear, and how Chewie was in my list to dissipate wounds. And Chewie basically did that throughout. So that was cool. He learned that right off the hop and was not afraid to kind of tell me that he saw that. The rest of the game basically was I took a pretty dominating position in basically a 2 move to the end. And he tried to push because he needed to. My Tauntauns went out, raced the Bark Speeder right off the hop. And then I was able to get kind of lined up with sort of a west-east Tauntaun charge. So I was moving sort of south to north, and he was moving obviously north to south. And then I kind of cut across the middle with the Tauntauns. And as soon as the Tauntauns kind of busted in from the side, that was kind of the end. He called it in turn 4. He was so gracious, even in the defeat. He actually told me I claimed a bounty that I didn't know existed. And so I got Rex before he did a fire support shot, so I was able to claim a bounty there. So I'll let you talk about the funny bounty that sort of appeared late related to me. Somebody obviously knows that I'm a real big fan of hugs. I'll just say that. But that was kind of game 1 for me. Game 2 was an interesting one. I also played. That's interesting. I also played a Vader in the tournament, and I had not played any Vaders in a long time. And so I played Anthony in game 2, Trying to think about our deployment. I think we had major offensive. We were doing key positions. I did a lot of key positions actually in the tournament. Probably 4 out of my 5 games, I think. And so Vader's a tough one. I didn't push for key positions, but I was moving away from hostile because you know what a Vader bomb plus suppressive weapons can really do, especially to a rebel list, especially to Tauntauns. At one point, I did have 5 units with 6 or more suppression that I needed to roll off. I did have 2 panic. They did not run off the table, but I was able to kind of do some inspirational type moves to kind of get them out of running off the table. But our game came down to kind of we only played 4 turns. It was a bit of a slow first turn. It was about an hour 40-minute first turn. Obviously shorter games are technically in favor of the Tauntauns, although 4 turns is typically less than I want to do, especially because Vader getting to the middle and swinging is dangerous. That game came down to, and I think what we learned, you and I, Joe, and Michael was making several recommendations. I think we learned a whole bunch of things that we can actually show in our kind of tips and tricks segments. So we will have those upcoming. Won't be this show here, but we have the ability to do some close cam talking and kind of show you guys some tricks. But basically, what it came down to was he was unaware that a displaced unit leader would be placed at range 1, not speed 1.
Not speed 1, yeah.
Yeah,
it's a common misconception, especially for newer players, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the non-control, it's the non-moving unit, I guess, that the other person gets to do that. So if I were to displace your unit leader, you get to reco here.
Right.
However, what he did was he actually force push my Tauntaun through his Vader.
Oh.
So, because what I did is I blocked his Vader into a doorway. And so he moved my unit through him. And so the judge was there, and like I was trying to explain to him that I would then move the Vader.
Right.
And so what I did was I moved the Vader range 1 off the middle objective. And it was the implacable turn, so I forced him to have to use his 2 actions to get back in coherence instead of getting into melee.
Yeah.
So then
he just super misplayed and like didn't really know, and then like ended up burning himself.
Well, here's the thing. I kind of forced him into it because I knew he had force push. So I put my 2 Tauntauns directly in front of him so that Vader couldn't actually get out of the doorway. So it was a full unit of Tauntauns that he was either going to have to send Vader into to swing at, which I didn't think he'd be able to kill in a single round. And then he'd have to use the implacable to either just finish off the Tauntauns, but at that point he wasn't getting into my other units, which he could probably kill 2 of. So I basically forced him into having to do that, and how I positioned the Tauntauns, he had no choice but to move it through. So I think it was good positioning by me, like it achieved the result. I didn't think he was going to actually do the force push though. So, and as soon as he did, I was like, okay. And we had to go to the rules. He didn't play like that. He didn't know that rule. The judge was there to rule. So I had the backing of the judge, but it's one of those things where it's like, it's a true gotcha moment. But we're in a big tournament, and so I can't really feel bad about that. I mean, I just explained to him what the rule was, but I think that's really important to understand how that exactly works. So anyway, that ended up being basically the end of the game. He wasn't able to kill 2 units because he couldn't get 2 attacks off in the implacable turn. I was able to have more on the objective and ended up winning that one. I'd only lost 1 unit in that game too, so I was definitely up on MOV there, even if it was a tie. So then game 3, I played Jeff Arney, obviously. Jeff and I had a really good game. I sent out a vanguarding Tauntaun that got erased fairly quickly. However, I definitely had a better approach to the middle key position. So I just took up basically the equivalent of a rebel gun line. Ended up forcing Jeff to feed me some of his tauntauns. I ended up getting pretty heavily there, pressed onto the middle objective, and ended up claiming there. We had a good back and forth game. I know Jeff learned how to play that list through the weekend. He got better as it went, and I saw some good plays by him as well. So I complimented him on his play for that game. So unfortunate to knock out a friend. But that did put me at 3-0, so I couldn't have been disappointed there. So went into my fourth game. At this point I had managed to avoid all heavies, and there was a lot of tanks, a lot of ATSTs.
Yeah, there were.
I was not looking. I was not looking forward to facing them at all. But I ended up drawing one in the last round. A little bit of story about this. So I walk up to the table. I immediately am slightly disheartened because it's the same table, virtually the same table, almost the identical layout that I lost my only game at Gen Con on, which I was up massively. And there was this large piece of woods, and it's like a bunch of pine trees that you can't move through at all. And they're pretty thick.
Oh yeah, I've played on those tables before.
Right.
The Christmas tree tables, right?
Yeah, and they're so big that even a double speed 2 doesn't really get you around from one side to the other, like if you were to go directly across. So they're pretty significant. And again, key positions was pulled. Sorry, no, not key positions, rather. It was breakthrough. I lost key positions on this table previously. And of course, what did I draw? I draw an ATST. I draw an ATST, double mortar, E-web, double shore trooper, veers, all the things that are potentially not good for me to face. Running into an end zone with a couple shore troopers, death troopers, and an E-web is not a great prospect. Trying to hulk across the table with a big ATSD standing in the middle, potentially either doing a back cap to be a linebacker or running down in my end, and I can't do anything about it. So admittedly, I spent about 8 to 10 minutes just surveying a table, really deciding where I wanted to go. During that time, I was approached to go on to the live stream. I immediately declined, and I didn't really want to get into an articulation around why exactly that was, but I had scouted that table, pre-scouted, and then I scouted pretty significantly during the game, and I was really looking at every lane that ATST could approach. And what I realized is if I pulled my bottom corner in any of the corner missions, there was about 2 avenues that ATSD could go. And if I deployed all the way up at the mid-table, either in advanced or major offensive, I was going to have the potential to be hidden for the first 2 turns. And no matter which way that ATST went, if I was then to double move everything, I could potentially outmaneuver that ATST. That's precisely what ended up happening. We pulled major offensive. I put everything in the middle. As I said, the ATST moved the first turn. I stood by and dodged with every one of my 12 units. The ATST made another move, approaching one of the 2 avenues that it could go through. I flexed and made my double move with everything, sending out 1 Vanguard Taunton. The Taunton took a ton of shooting. It got down to 1 model with 2 wounds. I double moved everything else except for a few units that I kept back to kind of like bait the ATST a little bit more. I ended up saving the single Taunton, running it back, flexing my other 2 out, and as soon as I hit that shoreline, I went shore troopers, killed, flexed through them, killed mortar, killed shore troopers, into veers, shutting down everything, into an E-web on the other side. My comms jammer really shut down all the token shenanigans with the list. The ATSD ended up killing 1 sniper team and 1 unit of 4 rebel troopers, and that is all that the ATST did in the game.
Wow.
It did get into my end zone, but I was positioned with 4 with another 3 on the way. We called it in turn 5. I played Rich, very good opponent. I could tell he was. The table really was the deciding factor. We both agreed. There's no hiding that. The table ended up being, so that was definitely a turn 0 like turn zero deciding factor for me, and definitely made a nice flex to rush into the end zone. So I said the entire time, I articulated several times, I don't care about how many activations I lose in this game. I just need to have one more than you to win.
Right.
And that's typically you're up on activations. I was able to kill quicker than he could kill, and that just put the weight in my favor. So that was my 4-0 game, and I felt quite bad. He did not actually have an invite, but I did confirm with him that it looks like he has a couple more chances. So hated to knock him out of that, but happy to get into day 2. So
Yeah. Definitely. So that's day 1, right?
Yeah.
So we roll into day 2, team event, while the other the other singles heat is going on. So sure enough, first round, my team is me and Jeff Arney. We're playing my exact list, the 8 activation Grievous Dooku. And sure enough, who do we get paired up with? Shawn and Michael.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, and yeah. And guess what they're playing?
You guessed it.
List.
Yeah.
List. Right? Now, your list was definitely nicer to look at than mine with all your converted droids and your nice basing and stuff. But
yeah, they died just as quick.
Yeah, they definitely died. We actually had a crazy close game.
Yeah, it was super close.
It was one of those games where, like, the whole last round was just a bunch of calculations.
It was.
It's like, okay, so if I move here and then I do this and touch this, okay, then I need to kill this and that. And so, and every single game I play against the mirror goes that way. It's like, this game's going to go to a tie, and it's going to be decided on points. And I'm pretty sure that's exactly what happened, right?
Yeah, we were on points. It was, like, crazy at the end. We were, like, we were strategically withdrawing, double moving to cover objectives, trying to force choke. Like, we had a ton of plays. And yeah, it just came down to, I think you guys had you guys were up on points, because although we were up on commanders, we had, like, basically no bodies left on the table. We were down to a few activations. So yeah, Brad was just saying it was crazier every time we walked around and saw it. Yeah, that game was like, our first turn was, like, really fun because it was a whole bunch of, like,
standbys.
Yeah, a whole bunch of, like, mathematical standbys. It was pulls into standby, then we pulled into standby. I think we ended up triggering every one of the standbys in that first round.
Yeah.
Your Grievous was beat up. Our Dooku was beat up. Then we actually flexed back. You killed our Dooku first, but we had both of your guys weakened, and then we ended up killing both of your commanders and had a full Grievous. But it was the weight of the bodies, and then like I said, we just were feeding around that centerpiece of terrain again, key positions. Oh no, we played intercept actually. Yeah,
we played intercept. But the thing, I think we got lucky. We got the more favorable trade off of the standby because we eliminated a full activation.
Yeah.
So that was like, we killed just like 8 B1s between our, like, choke, standby, pull play. Yeah. And you just put, like, I think 3 wounds into Dooku.
Right.
So it gets you ahead in the late game, but ours got us a little ahead in the early game because we were up in activation.
Yeah.
Our Dooku didn't stick around much longer than that, though. Like, he was dead. He got his 1 pip off, made the play, and then, like, died.
We should say real quick here, too, Kyle Krauser is just heading off now, but big ups to Kyle for, second place finish at LVO. So I watched that game as well. We'll kind of talk about that when we get to kind of our Sunday report. But nice job, Kyle. Thanks for coming to hang out with us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, congrats, Kyle. Thank you. That was our first game. It was a bummer that we got matched up right in the first round, and we had to, like, one of us was going to, like, make the other one lose. It's inevitable. But ultimately, me and Jeff ended up taking the win, and it was a great game. My second game was crazy. I want to talk about that because we play, we've got our droid list. We're going up against, I want to say it was an 11 activation, Krennic ATST Bosk, like, Shoreline, right? Or no, and he had some stormtroopers and snipers and stuff too. But man, so ATST, he starts off the game with like a double aim and uh, kills 7 out of 8 B1s in one squad with the opening salvo of the game. And I was like, here we go. We're going to get ATST. Jeff. Like, this is. But to what I want to say that ended up being hilarious is that our return play was with just 2 rocket B1 squads. We did 8 damage to the ATST.
Yeah, Joe told me this, and I didn't even believe it. I was like, how did you do 8 crits to an ATST round?
It was like 3 natural crits plus impact 2. It's like there's 5. He rolls like 1 save. It happened twice in a row. So 8 damage, and I'm like, oh, we're in good shape. Now we just need to aim shoot at it with the E5Cs, average a crit or 2. We probably got this thing down. So it got this big bursty shot, and then I had to take that B1 and like hide it behind a building for the rest of the game. But we got that ATST down quick, and that literally saved us. He also had a flamethrower snowtrooper squad that had a medic in it. And so he like recon intels it out and then kind of double moves it and keeps it kind of behind this wall that's like close to the center. And I just did the like, you double move Grievous, you double move Dooku. Turn 1, I got a choke off on the medic. Turn 2, we go in on that squad and just kill it. So eliminate the flamethrowers because that's a super huge threat to a droid list, as anyone who's ever ran flamethrowers in any capacity against droids probably knows. So we had to get rid of that. We got rid of that quick. And then ultimately what ended up happening was both Grievous and Dooku died, and Bosk claimed the bounty on Dooku. So we were going to go to a tie at that point because we were holding 2 objectives and they were holding 1 in key positions, but they had the bounty. So I was like, all right, Bosk is kill priority target number 1 because we have to deny him that bounty. He wasn't able to get an order token on Bosk for the 1 turn, and we just dumped our whole army into it and killed it. So then it was like we're holding it 2-1. We've got a lot of B1s alive, and they have like very few things alive. I think, but this was the crazy thing. Going into turn 6, they had just Krennic, 1 naked stormtrooper squad backcapping, Krennic's in the middle, and they have like a 2-man stormtrooper squad in the middle as well. And we have 6 activations worth of droids that are pretty healthy, except for the 1-man squad that's like behind a wall. And so I'm like, all right, we just need to pile on all the objectives and we're going to win 2-1. It's fine. He plays Annihilation Looms and we have no commander. So what ended up happening is I'm like, okay, nothing in this turn is relevant. We literally just need to roll our like 2 whites to see if we panic and see if enough stuff stays on the objective or not. So I walk the lone unit leader B1 into Krennic so that Krennic can't score. He would have to withdraw, and even then he can't score. So I'm like, okay, he's gonna have 1 body on the middle, like 1 2-man squad, and we're gonna have to like roll whites to see if we can keep 2 activations touching the middle. So I'm just rolling. I'm like, they panic. They panic. They panic. I'm like, this is not looking good. But ultimately, we were able to like land just the 1 block we needed, and then the one of our rolls is a block surge, so we ended up capping the middle and winning like 2-1. It was super. No, actually, no. We panicked our back capper off too, so we tied 1-1, but we won on points because we had 6 activations alive and killed their ATST, their Bosk, like their flamethrowers, like all their expensive models. So we won on points, but. Man, Annihilation looms against my list. Usually I find that like in turn 6, both of my commanders are dead if I haven't tabled you. And so if your Krennic's still alive, Annihilation looms shuts down droids pretty hard.
Do you mind, Joe, if we go back to our first game? First off, Brad just sent me a picture, so I quickly grabbed that. This was early game for us, so
Okay.
just a ridiculous amount of droids. By the way, the reason I like this photo is ironically, the bases that I made for my army matched this one beautifully, so I ended up displaying my army here. But you can see this giant mass. There's a couple other photos. We'll talk about this in future upcoming episodes, but yeah, we basically just walked two big masses. Joe's has one just off screen here. And I say Joe and it was a team event, but that funny story about that, I was kidding and saying that it was the absolute worst demo game ever. At one point, Michael actually joined Jeff and Joe on the other side, so it was 3v1 because I wasn't letting Michael do anything on our side. And I'll tell a funny story. You can talk about a hashtag in the box, and I'm going to talk about sending friend requests during games. So
All right, I'll talk hashtag in the box because
yeah, you do that first.
This is 100% Jeff.
Yeah.
So I don't condone this whatsoever. I think Jeff, you can do a pop Jeff.
For shame.
So I guess Jeff has a game yesterday against Shawn, or the day before against Shawn. We just talked about that, like the round 3 game, and Jeff is like, all right, I've got a rule. I roll into my dice tray. Every die that bounces out of the dice tray, I re-roll into the dice tray. And they agreed to that. They played to that the whole day. Then in our game, we had like a clutch time when we needed to roll like a save or something.
No, you had to roll crits.
Yeah, we had to roll crits.
Yes.
Jeff rolls a crit. It doesn't land inside of the box, and he goes, "Yeah, that's a crit," and just like keeps it. And then, and so it's like Shawn's like, "Wait, what happened to that rule? Like that rule only applies when like it's the die result that you don't want."
First, Jeff does one of these. So looks down at the crit, looks up at me. In his eyes, it's like, does he remember that I said that yesterday? Oh, you better believe I remembered. Then I was like, what happened in the box? And he's like, what? He looks at Joe, and then I was like, oh man, just keep it, because now I have a new hashtag.
Yeah. So that wasn't me.
Oh,
I'm not to be blamed.
We got Brad there. Jeff's got nowhere to hide. He can't hashtag in the box. That's my new thing. So, but I mean, in the box too.
It's not the first time the rolling in and out of the dice tray has been a point of contention for the Chicago scene. I'll just say that. Shout outs to you, Justin Romano. I know you're listening.
Matter of fact, I'm leaving hashtag in the box up for the remainder of this podcast.
Yeah.
So let's. So anyway, that happened. But I was.
So wait, are you accusing us of cheating? Are you saying we're a bunch of cheats?
No, I'm confused because I think that the Friday in the box rule is that if it's outside the box, you have to re-roll. But I think the Saturday rule is if it's in your favor, you get to keep it.
Yeah.
The fine print of that is it depends on what day it is. So anyway, so during the game, I was actually teasing Jeff. I was like, because Joe made like 2 moves, did something, ends up rolling some dice, and then I just jokingly say over to Jeff, who's on his phone, I was like, oh, that was a good play there, Jeff. And he just kind of looks up, he sort of looks up at me, and I was like, and then I didn't say anything else. And then after the game, I said, and then you got Jeff over here updating his Instagram account, and then my partner Michael says to me, he's like, and I thought he was like kind of adding to the joke. He goes, no, he's busy sending friend requests, and Jeff and Joe had moved over to the other table, and I was like, what do you mean? He's like, no, he shows me his phone. He's like, Jeff sent me a friend request during the game, so I leave my table, I go all the way over because my joke now has like it's set in reality. So I start giving Jeff the gears about sending friend requests during games. So anyway. It just was. I mean, we lost the first game. It didn't matter. We didn't care. It felt good. Every picture of us that Brad just sent here, you can see a smile on my face because we're smashing robots into each other for the entire time. So I had a great time there.
Oh yeah, team event is pure fun. It's super casual and it's fun. I'm drinking beers with Jeff the whole time and drinking beers with our opponents and stuff. We're just like laughing. I'm just like, I just crit an ATST for 5. Like, what the hell just happened? It was fun.
I will say this: we actually had the fastest win in round 2 because we got it during cleanup of round 1 when we got the bye. So. But Michael and I, not to be outdone, we actually went and played a singles game during the bye round because we were just that deep into Legion. So I ended up beating Michael, and so he claims that he actually was the only player in the tournament who had a loss during the bye. So he's got that claim too. So yeah, it was just all good. So go ahead and describe your third game. I'll give mine real quick, and then we'll talk about Sunday.
Yeah, so third game was very thematic because it was droids versus clones, right? So we kept talking about that in the beginning. We're like, yes,
you played Darren. You played Darren, I think,
we
right?
beat Darren. True Clone Wars matchup. We decided that it was like right at the end of the Clone Wars because one of the pieces on the table was a TIE fighter. So we're like, all right, Order 66 already happened. Like, this is the very end where it's like New Empire. So it was fun. Ultimately, those guys had never faced a Grievous Dooku list before, and they were talking about how there was just like some plays that they weren't ready for. I mean, at one point, so the crazy thing about the Team League in general is that you play 4 command cards. Like, each team plays 2 command cards. So you can do some like ridiculous combos, right? You could play like double 1-pips or something. One of the things, talking to Kingsley, he was saying like, you could play Brains and Brawn with Chewie and Coordinated Bombardment and use Chewie's dice pool to add to all 3 of Leia's bombardments. Like, there's just like crazy combos you could do, and that's what makes it so hilarious and fun. But at one point, they're like, they played both of their 1-pips on Obi-Wan and Rex, and I played double the fall. And I was like, okay, so put your 2 tokens back in the bag. And they were like, what is this? And they're like, what do you mean, no? And I'm like, yeah, put both of your tokens back in the bag. And they're like, what is this, Dooku crap? Like, what? They're like reading the card, like, what? So it was, yeah, another lesson for us on the weekend, definitely. Yeah, but we had a super fun game and an awesome conversation after the game. I mean, we ended up sitting there for probably like 45 minutes to an hour just chatting about like what it's like to be a store owner and lessons you could learn and problems you could run into. And because, like, you know, Jeff, one of the things Jeff's been talking about is potentially like after retirement opening a game store. And we had a great conversation, great guys. Want to have those guys up to Chicago for our next tournament or our next event because I think they're out in Davenport, so it's like a 3-hour drive or something. It's going to be, you know, so new friends were made. And I think that's the whole point of going to LVO and the whole point of like playing in the side tournaments and stuff is just meeting new people, chatting, having a good time, and you know, and not being stressed out or salty if you lose because there's really no stakes. It's just a fun tournament. Great time for sure. Yeah. And yeah, so that was nice. It was like Jeff and I ended up going undefeated, so we got like a spot gloss, like Stormtrooper, Rebel Trooper, alt art. But it was, you know, and we got those cool sabak sleeves for playing, which looked great, and it was just a fun event. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad I ended up signing up for that. You know, I wasn't going to at first, but I'm glad I ended up getting in for that. And shout outs to Jeff for being, you know, fun to play with, fun to hang out with all day, and for doing a great job. So,
yeah. I was just at a. I'm just looking at what's Jeff saying here. I'll put this up. I sent them a friend request too, but after the game, since Joe wasn't letting me play anymore by the 3rd round.
Okay, fair enough.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's true. Oh, geez, what's going on here? Geez. Oh, here's one. You got to talk about this now.
Okay, so little known fact about Shawn Morris. He's not a huge fan of, you know, like being touched, being hugged, you know, anything like that. So sure enough, of course, someone sets a bounty to hug him. And
we should just say who straight up who it was.
Who was it?
It was Kyle, our friend. Kyle Dornbos, calling him straight out. If there's a bounty, I'm going to find something special for Kyle. I don't know what it's going to be, but
so Shawn was not happy about that.
Not really, no.
And sure enough, like several people came up to him and gave him a hug throughout the course. But the one guy like gave him a hug. I didn't see the hug happen, but I did see the guy come back up to you after and be like, "Man, I'm sorry. I don't know." Like he was like apologizing to you and stuff. So that was kind of funny.
Yeah, it was all right. It was all right. Since I didn't know him, and it's not really nice to hit strangers, I didn't. So we'll just chalk it up to I just had to deal. So it's like being in a really tight subway or something like that for like 1 second. Yeah. So yeah, not super fan of that, but that's fine. Brad's saying it was fun to have us in the team tournament and made it fun. That's because we basically just beat each other off for the entirety of the round. So if anybody
and Slosky, F you if you're out there. Man. he's like I'm putting a bounty on Depino. He's like the bounty is to just kill his half of the army. Like he was just like trolling me the whole time. It was so funny though. We were having a blast. Like nothing but laughs that whole tournament. It was great. I'm really happy to have played in it. It's really fun.
Yeah. I was pretty happy because I actually claimed 2 bounties. Ironically enough, I actually got the Taunton Bounty, the one that I was joking about in the pre-LVO show that I was going to give up. Actually, I did lose all 3 of mine in the Sunday game. But I actually claimed it off Jeff, so I killed the 3 Tauntauns, and I totally forgot about that. But then he reminded me. Actually, Brad next to me reminded me to claim that, so I was able to claim that one. Which, by the way, was John Griffin bounty, of which I was never paid for. So,
John, I think you owe some people some bounties.
Yeah, you owe me a parachute, because that's what I asked for my bounty prize. So, John said, "What do you want?" I said, "A parachute." So I'm waiting. I'll send you my address. So yeah, the team event was ridiculously awesome. So we wrapped up about 7 or so, I think, on that one. So it was a bit earlier, which was nice. So then we went into Sunday. I only played 1 game on Sunday. There was 4 of us that made the cut. 2 Rebels, 2 Imperials on our day, and I think the next day, I think Saturday had, I want to say 3 Empire, 1 Rebel.
Yeah.
I think so. 3 Taunton players did make it in. Unfortunately, only 1 advanced out of that first elimination round. So I played Gus in my game. I feel like of all 4 of the tables, I called Joe over at the start when I was pre-scouting, and I was like, I really didn't love the table for my Tauntauns. There was nothing physically wrong with the table. Just in comparison, it definitely had a lot of lower debris. It had a ton of like barricade size things. But there was nothing that I could hide Tauntauns behind.
It was like all scattered terrain, and there were 2 buildings, and they were pushed to the corner. Yeah. So you didn't have like the optimal situation of I could hide behind walls and wait. You were just forced to shot the whole game, which is not ideal.
And I should talk a little bit about my reasoning here. So I took key positions against Palpatine, which may look at it on paper like that's not the best play. I unfortunately didn't like the all 3 deployments. I wasn't super happy with, just based on where I was going to come out to in terms of having to run from. So I ended up playing key positions, but I had Disarray as my deployment. I wasn't too disappointed about Disarray because I have an activation to throw in the corner. Unfortunately, though, and one thing I didn't measure, like typically when I walk up to a table, lesson for me, and I'm just going to give the lesson, I'll articulate it out loud. Typically when you walk up, you look at your right-hand corner, because you know if you're going to have advanced positions, if you're having a long march, if you're having major offensive, that's the corner that you're in. So you kind of measure out all the things from there. However, if you play Disarray, that's the one time when blue flips to the other corner. And what I didn't pay attention to was there was a couple pieces of terrain, like for example an ATST, down ATST head, and the front gun was actually extended all the way out, and then that ended up connecting to another piece of terrain, which was one outside of my deployment, but not one outside of the middle. And so I ended up just really getting really getting a limited choice on where I could deploy my objectives. And I ended up coming about 3/4 of the way across the table just to get to the middle of the table, just because where it was angled and where I could approach from. He was able to choke off the easy access route. At the end of the game, it was really good. We played really cagey. The Now You'll Die turn only ended up killing one Taunton unit, which was already slightly weakened. The end of the game came down to he had 5 on the middle, I had 5 on the middle, I had 1 on the back, he had 1 on the back. I had 2 units that weren't able to reach. I had a few that were killed, and it just came down to points. He was up on points. His red dice saves, that Brad, who's in chat, can very much attest to this. The game started off, I had to do 2 Hunter Sniper shots into an E-Web and 2 Taunton Rams, one with Tenacity, just to take out the first E-Web. He just would not roll any blanks on his red dice. No surge tokens, just straight up locks. And that was a little bit of an overcommit for me to have to eliminate it, but the E-Web was shutting down my approach. And then afterwards, I just couldn't sneak wounds through. I put 2 on a mortar, 2 on a mortar, 3 into shore troopers. My kind of end of the turn shot, last of the turn shot, is he had 2 shore troopers, and that was his 5th activation. I popped out, touched the objective, shot, hit them 3 times. 1.5 is the average for the saves there. They ended up rolling 3 for 3 on the saves. Couldn't eliminate the activation. He's got 5 on the end objective. I have 5. He wins on points. If I could have eliminated that, that would have went to me. I couldn't, so it went to him. Like it was that close, and I'm okay to play a 6-round game. We played in time. I think we were 3 minutes left on the clock. Played a full 6 turns. Neither one of us were rushed. We took our time. Came down to a dice roll. Couldn't ask for a better game. No contention at all. We were very cordial. He was good. I was good. In terms of like allowing anything, we didn't really miss any triggers or any cues. We walked ourselves and talked ourselves through a bit of terrain throughout the game, like a few of the nuances that we didn't quite cover at the start. But nothing of contention. Gus did a fantastic job. It was good, a good game all around. I wish them the best of luck in the next round, and away we went. So that kind of put me out of the game. But I was happy to make top 8 out of a 120-man tournament for sure.
Yeah. Congratulations for getting there. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I when we were talking after, I was like, oh no, you picked KP against Palpatine, because like last year at LVO, I played 5 games of KP as Palpatine, like that. But I get what you were saying. You know, you're like, hey,
my options were intercept, breakthrough, or KP, and
that's what I would have picked.
Yeah, and I mean, I could have went intercept, but to me, I felt it was very much the same, and I wanted to over position next to the middle first. Yep. Therefore, I didn't want to have to hang back, so I actually pushed. And the reason I didn't want to have intercept was because of that objective. It actually would have been further back than I could put the KP, and I wanted to overextend on the 2. So my 2 KPs ended up being far but close. What I felt in close proximity, and I had the 1 building that I was able to put the KP just behind. So for my reasoning was I wanted to be close in case he switched and tried to flex onto mine, which was near there, and I just didn't want to have to hang back and intercept. So that was kind of my rationale.
That makes sense. I mean, intercept and KP, I think, are Palp's like 2 best games.
I wouldn't have changed
anything that has like 2 points. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I wouldn't have changed anything that I picked there. I couldn't have changed disarray. He picked it. He forced it. I forced KP. The only thing that I would have changed in that game is I actually probably would have run I made 1 Taunton move to get into Palp on turn 5. And I think I would have saved both moves with the Tauntons till turn 6. That would have forced him to have good Now You Will Die turns, and potentially not have killed my other activation. So the only problem with that, and I kind of played it back, is I don't know if I would have had enough room to jam in my rebel units if I had Tauntons in the way. So I hate to go back and play the entire game again. But there's too many factors for me to say that this would have worked. But if I was going to change one thing to try again, I think I would have tried that. So.
Yeah, you could always go back and reflect and like overthink everything. I thought about that with like my two losses on Friday. I was like, oh, I should have did this and that and whatever. I mean, that's just how it goes. So, but
Yeah,
you had a great showing. So, hey, we both did good. I got me and Jeff got the team tournament. You got the
yep,
top 8.
yep,
It was ultimately a really, really great tournament, right? And congrats to Luke Cook.
yeah. Wicked
That was
final.
awesome.
Him
Yeah,
And Kyle for sure.
I watched like 90% of the game on stream from the hotel room because I was feeling a little ill that day. And then I ended up walking down like right as the game was wrapping up just because I wanted to, congratulate everyone and kind of see the end. But yeah, that was a crazy game. You know, one of the things that came up on Facebook today that I was even thinking about in relation to that game was Luke did a Now You Will Die and put himself with Palp down to 4 wounds. He took 4 wounds to do his Now You Will Die, and he was like on 1 health. And Bosk didn't activate yet, so Bosk actually killed him and claimed the bounty, and they tied him into points. So I'm not. One of the things you can do with Palp is you can actually suicide. Like you can use Now You Will Die to kill yourself. That final wound that you take, you can't do another attack off of it, but you can kill yourself. And the only time that would make sense to do that is to like deny a bounty in turn 6 or something. Like it's like an extreme corner case. You almost never want to do it because it's almost never worth like throwing away, a 230 point model. But yeah, it is something you can do. Luke chose not to do it. It didn't really matter. Like, so he got the bounty. They tied 2-2 on key positions, and he won on points.
Yep.
And who's to say that maybe Bosk shoots an activation of his off of the middle objective or something instead, and
Yep.
that might change the game completely. But that is an option. If you find yourself, you're like, oh, I've got 3 activations on the middle and you've only got 1 that can get here, or 2 maybe, I could suicide and like guarantee that you can't bounty me if you're Palpatine.
Yeah,
So
and just to point out too, I think it was a 10-point margin of victory for Luke. So
crazy.
yeah, exceptionally close game. So
At one
um,
point, I got to say, not to interrupt you, sorry, but at
yep,
one point when I was watching, I was like, it's not looking good for Luke. It's not looking good for Luke. Like, he's bleeding shore troopers super fast, but I'm like, Palpatine's still alive. He's still got wounds. I know how that goes. I've swung enough games as
yep.
Palp, especially on key positions, where it's like, I'm just going to march up to the middle and delete, like, your 2 objective grabbers. I had that exact situation come up at Gen Con against Casey Jones, Garnanana, where he actually had like several more activations than me on the middle key position, but I walked Palpin and just like cleared them all out. It's
Yep.
like you don't have any cover because we're touching the same position, we're touching the same point, and now I'm just gonna pierce 2, surge to crit, and roll and like kill your like 2 to 3 man stormtrooper units and wipe you off the objective. And
Um,
that's just a thing that happens.
I just want to talk about something, and Kyle's in chat, so and LJ's here too, so they can all speak to it. And I'm only bringing this up not to draw any negative attention to anything, so please don't get this thought. But when I was watching the game, and let's just be clear, at this point, Kyle and Luke were playing game 7 of Legion. And they had played just the day before, so I mean, we all played a ton of Legion games. I mean, I played 8 games of Legion, playing in the team event as well, playing the extra game, all that extra stuff. So, and so what happened at one point was, and correct me if I'm wrong, chat. You guys will know, but Luke pulled a Special Forces token and activated a Trooper with it, and that was probably just I don't want to get in Luke's head, but they're going through the motions. Kyle was across the table from him. That happened. The activation went off, and then at one point, Luke eventually drew that Trooper token. Realized that there was no Trooper to activate, and it was the Special Forces. They kind of backpedal a little bit. They figure out what has happened. So the ruling was, and I think this is correct. I believe Luke got a 2-point warning, However, one thing I did not know that occurred, I believe Kyle actually got a 1 point warning as well for failure to like sort of notice the game state, and I didn't really know that to be a thing because, and I'm not going to get into the points and who should get penalties or not, but I don't really feel that the awarding a point to Kyle is, in my opinion, I'll use the word fair. Because there was no malicious intent there, and I don't know how the points all stack up, but let's just say, for example, circumstances were to play out and Kyle already had points or something like that. Is that compounding effect of adding another point to him potentially an issue, or what would happen if later Kyle were to make the similar mistake, Luke doesn't notice, and now they both technically have 3 points against them? Is 3 points an elimination, or how does that work? And I don't think any play there was malicious either on Luke's behalf or Kyle missing it. Obviously, if Kyle saw that, he'd probably give the friendly reminder to say, "Hey, I don't think that's the right one." But I just didn't fully understand that, and that's just maybe my own naivety to not know that. But I think I would like to see clarification so that we can speak about this again. But I just thought it was very strange to see the other player awarded a penalty at that moment. So
I don't like the floor rules, man. I've said this before. I'm not going to get on the soapbox about it.
Yeah,
I think they're a little too strict. Maybe is the right word. I know I was talking to Jeff too, and he's like, I've been a police officer, and like I think he works. He's been in law enforcement for however many years, and he's like, one of the things is like it's his job to uphold and interpret the law, right? The law is very thoroughly defined, but the one thing he has at any time is discretion. So he can see someone go through a red light and choose to not pull them over. And I think that there's a way to exercise some discretion when interpreting the floor rules, so that you're not just like punishing people for like accidents and stuff, especially if like both opponents agree that there was like no malicious intent or stuff. I think we might be in a situation where we're over fouling for stuff, and that's not even in relation to that game specifically. I just think sometimes you guys chill out a little bit on the floor rules, like that's my thoughts, but it is what it is. It's fine. I get why they're important. Like, they're preventing things that have happened in previous game systems, previous tournaments, things from being exploited and abused. They're preventing cheating. But there's also there's a time and place where it's like, hey, if both players agree that they want to leave their cards stacked up in a pile on the side, you don't have to foul them. Like, they had the conversation. Who cares? Like, chill. But that's totally different. This is my opinion.
So just a little of this stuff going on in the chat, and I think that I'll take Kyle as the source. He was there, as he's pointing out, just fatigue. As I said, this is game 7 for these guys. These guys both played, I believe, on day 2. So this is their 7th game in 2 days, and kind of coming off that that late Saturday into Sunday, just the fatigue. There was like as Kyle pointed out, he said, I said, okay, we carried on. LJ's pointing out here, just in general, they want to review them so that they're a little bit more clear, just to add anyone going forward. He is indicating that there is some discretion allowed in the floor rules. And then Brad, I'm just going to pop this comment because it's long and pop it up on the screen. There we go. Logic behind the ruling in that game, it was a game state error. Both players are responsible for maintaining game state, and because it had gone multiple activations past, the error became an issue. And he just says that he has received similar warnings for making mistakes in Magic the Gathering when both points, and he's missed something and had to move forward to the point where it was irreversible. It's fairly standard ruling. I don't think that, I honestly don't think that there was a problem repairing game state. I just think that the fouling of Kyle at that particular moment, because if someone were, and this is what I kind of went to my head, and not to get on a huge rant about this, but if I were to look at a token, and let's say I quickly glance and I speak in error, I see it that it's a special forces. I say troop just because in my head, maybe I'm thinking, man, I hope I pull a troop. I see it's special forces. I say troop. I place it down. I never properly show my opponent the token. They're going to operate under the assumption that I am playing legitimately by the rules, as I have been. I place it down, and my error is in misspeaking. My opponent's error is in not checking that, and then the game continues. And I, in no way, shape, or form, intended to mislead my opponent, but I very well could have, just simply flashing it or not showing it properly. And then now suddenly we do have a game state error. And I'm not saying that occurred here, but that could easily occur. And I would hate to be on the receiving end of a 1-point penalty for an error my opponent did, and I didn't properly have a way of correcting or even notifying that. So,
yeah, and I could definitely speak to the fatigue aspect of of things because I've been there, man. Like even last year at LVO, we had to play 5 games in one day, and in my game, I didn't even realize this until someone pointed it out to me on the like recorded video that Nick recorded and put on his website. That I think I played David. Me and his like our key positions. 2 of our key positions were like too close together. Like they weren't range 1 apart. So our whole board state for the entirety of the game was like an illegal key position. And again, that comes, it's like we've been playing Legion for like 12 hours, right? And it's like those little mistakes are made. When I was watching the stream of Luke and Kyle playing, I'm like, at one point I was like, man, like Luke's hands look like they're shaking. Like he looks a little nervous. I mean, you're playing for top 2 at a 120-person tournament. You've been playing all weekend. You're exhausted. I totally understand, man. Like I can't fault anyone for making little mistakes like that and stuff. And I know I don't really know Kyle that well. It was a pleasure to meet him, but I know Luke, and I know he had no malicious intentions. Like he's not that guy. So it was a mistake. I mean, accidents happen. It's whatever, you know.
So just before we wrap up, I want to say a couple things. So we've been at the show for like just under an hour and a half now. Our number has been above 30, sometimes topping 40, which is absolutely amazing. But I want to make sure that I'm pointing out a couple things. So you guys know that we're having some people, supporting our show. I want to put this up because we have a lot of people viewing. And I want to recognize, and I said I would recognize every single time. So let me pop this up here real quick. By the way, Wicked Coaching Industries background that Dave was gracious enough to share. So I've sort of spiced up this one here. So you guys know that we are adding credits to our show. We're adding a 4th camera. We're going to be running 800-point games here pretty soon. So we already got 3 cameras in studio. We're adding a 4th. Michael Hammond and Nathan Gall have been gracious enough to start adding to our credit count, so I want to point those guys out, obviously. However, all 31 of you in chat right now absolutely are supporting our show just by watching. We want to point that out. We absolutely love it. If you guys like what you're seeing in there, thumbs up and hearts are also cool. They're a good indicator to tell us that you guys like what's happening. So good on all you guys for hanging out. Absolutely love it. Hopefully you guys are enjoying our recap of the experience. And what I was going to suggest too, Joe, we didn't really talk about this, but I think I would love to have another roundtable here in the very near future, and I would love it to be a representation of LVO attendees. Yeah. So if you guys want to come on and do an LVO roundtable, talking about your experience, all that, man, our hearts and thumbs are blowing up right now. But if you guys want to come on and we can get 4 or 5 people in chat, that would be absolutely awesome. You guys can tell us. I mean, everybody, all 120 or 200 players, I think, with the narrative and team, all of you guys had your own LVO experience. Ours is not unique in the fact that you probably had a lot of similar experiences that we did, but everyone had that little story, that wicked roll, that thing, that bad beat, that gotcha moment. We want to hear all of that, and I think other people will too, and that's truthfully what gets people going to LVO in the future. So I just want to take a small aside, recognize our pledge supporters, and just kind of throw that idea out there. So.
Yeah, and I want to plug Friday Night Fights, right? We got another stream coming up Friday.
Boom, there we go. We'll throw that up right there.
Friday Night Fights, everyone. So one of the things I just want to say thanks to everyone for coming up to us at LVO and talking about how much they're loving Friday night fights. I mean, that was awesome to hear. That was, I'm glad to hear that you guys are enjoying it. Shawn's obviously put a ton of work into it. From both of us, like, thank you guys for recognizing that and appreciating that. And so yeah, tune in 7 p.m. Central this Friday night for another one. And maybe if we could round up some more guest commentators to come on. I know we were talking to Brad. Brad expressed interest in coming on. So did John Griffin, pending his schedule. So we'll see when we could get together, but it should be a good matchup. Do you got any previews for that, or are you still kind of figuring out who's playing, what lists and stuff?
I think maybe we're going to see a repeat performance of Keith coming on. So Keith played Adam before. I don't think Adam's playing this week. I'm not 100% sure, but maybe Mike's available too. So we're just going to, we have, 8 or so players to draw, and I'm trying to tap into the other city too for coming down. What I might actually look to do is a kind of a little skirmish weekend. So we'll do kind of a Friday, Saturday type, like a little mini event here, and we'll get a bunch of games on stream. But I think Keith is committed, to playing this Friday, so Keith will be looking for an upcoming opponent. I know the guys in another chat have been really throwing around skirmish lists, so you all know what skirmish list I'm really interested to try out. So got to get that 10 activation skirmish list going. So just give that. I'm going to call it the friend maker. That's what I'm going to call it. So the demo ruiner, we'll call it.
Yeah, the positive new player experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The real deal. LJ is asking us, sure, LJ, I can do that. So if you are in stream or if you attended LVO and you're watching this later on, don't forget to do the survey. There is a feedback survey on there talking about tables, talking about organization, communication, all those things. So fill that out. It only takes a couple minutes, and it's if you're trying to get change enacted in LVO, the survey is one of the ways to do it. So don't just have an opinion, voice your opinion, and put it in the survey. So, and then Alex is asking, will we ever do some shows and analyze other people's lists? Absolutely.
Sure.
I mean, basically, we're going to do this. We're going to probably do a regular podcast next week. We'll do Friday Night Fights. But I think after that, we're basically on the trek to Worlds. So I've been talking about some lists. Joe's been talking about some lists. We've got our players in our respective play groups that are talking about lists. And I think that before we'll probably start about a month out or so with our trek to Worlds. Start talking about our practice and our games. So absolutely feel free to submit us a list. Just go to the Legion Academy Facebook page, throw some stuff up there, and we can talk lists anytime you want. So and then
we got new toys to play with this week, right? Operative Vader and Luke. We got R2. We've got all these upgrade packs. So the meta's in flux. Let's just say that. New stuff, right? I'm looking forward to Operative Luke. I think he's gross. Like, absolutely super powerhouse unit right there. So I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of him coming up here. So yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good for sure. We'll definitely be talking about all the new stuff and all the lists and stuff that we're building. So
for sure. And we saw a lot of cool lists. We kind of did a little bit of a breakdown on the bush facts that were kind of shared out there in terms of the stats. I think we'll probably see a few post LVO stats coming out too. So maybe what we'll do is we'll save that for a roundtable discussion, and we can kind of all weigh in on that, depending kind of where you're at in terms of gameplay. You might be inexperienced and went to LVO. You may be a seasoned vet, went to LVO. You may have just maybe that was your second or third tournament, so you're kind of middle of the road. Maybe you were happy with your list. Maybe you completely changed it after seeing other lists on the table. So I know I have. Just looking at Kyle pointed out that OP, so Op Luke making waves. Then he points out still vulnerable to Hunter. Kyle is saying that because he brought 6 King of Hunter. Yes, so good. I I'm looking. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm looking how many hunters can I fit into a rebel list. So
Honestly, that was a super interesting choice and
yeah,
very strong. I mean, but between the amount of tauntauns, the emplacement troopers that you're seeing out of the shore trooper shorelines, and like
yeah.
the characters in the Grievous Dooku list, I mean, Hunter's just extremely good. And when you spam it in like 5-6 activations, that was a smart meta call. I really think so.
I'm not going to claim ingenuity here, but I have been playing him for a while. But I think a lot of people, and I got a ton of questions today around my selection of Chewie and what exactly he's doing in my list. And I think a lot of people were a little bit surprised. Initially, he's designed to do counter sniper and save my snipers. But I actually run Chewie with my Tauntauns the rest of the time. People are kind of wondering, like, how do you pace Chewie with them? And Chewie's not there to put out a lot of firepower. Chewie oftentimes just gets a dodge from Leia and double moves to stay with the Tauntauns. Now the dodge is not to be used for Guardian. However, when you double move with the Tauntauns, as long as you cohere one behind and kind of keep Chewie sort of out of the way. Chewie with the dodge for the odd shot that comes directly at him, but Chewie out of line of sight's not taking direct shots. And typically, when you do a double move with Chewie and you cohere a Tauntaun fully behind, you're well within Guardian range. So I just put him in Guardian range of 1 or 2. I usually eat a wound on the Tauntauns to proc tenacity real quick. And then I basically use Chewie as a 9 wound feed bag for wounds. And I only lost Chewie in 1 game. So I was pretty happy with that. And I lost him on the last turn in my game with Palpatine. And that was after a pull the strings Death Trooper shot, which I took a whole bunch of in that game. So don't underestimate Chewie. Chewie is very good. Maybe you don't get full value out of him with your Rebel Troopers or even Snipers. Sometimes you don't. But those wounds on Tauntauns to keep those activations and to keep that second Tauntaun alive for that crash in is super important. And I used it all weekend long with great success. So
yeah. One last thing I noticed about the LVO stats, not to change the subject, but the clone faction didn't really perform too well relative to the other 3 factions. But I think the release of R2 is really going to change that. Because I think he kind of he has that activation pad that they need, and also the ability to threaten that victory point is now just like a double buff to that faction. So where I've seen that faction perform well with the Rex triple Barks list that Paul was running like locally. I didn't happen to run into any Rex triple Barks players at LVO, but now you can run that list and you can throw an R2 in it too, and now it just kind of flexes a lot harder. So I'm looking forward to seeing clones on the map, especially at Adepticon. And if they can get the tank before that, I think it's going to be really nasty. Phase 2's in the tank.
If we get any date on the tank that makes it relative for us to talk about tanks pre-Worlds, we'll do an entire armor show because I am most excited. I was sending Joe a bunch of armor lists from the airport during my layover yesterday, all related to armor. I think that tanks are going to be super prevalent, which then is going to probably proc impact to be prevalent. Which then is going to be procking some like counter, some counter armor lists in terms of maybe
even some ion.
That's exactly where I was going with that. Yeah, not necessarily impact, but ion. And if we see a prevalence of droids starting to take some prominence as well, which I think good showing at LVO. I think once they get some cheaper units as well and they can buff the activation count, then ion starts becoming dual purpose in the fact that it can start shutting down some other things that aren't just vehicles. So.
Yeah. So should be interesting. We're in this crunch period where we're like, please release stuff, make it legal, but we'll see what happens. We got a couple months, so.
Yeah. So any final thoughts around LVO other than the fact that Vegas is expensive, so we know that.
Yeah, I mean it was a great event. Shout outs to all the guys that put it together, that did all that work. Awesome event. I guess my only complaint, it's not even a complaint, but the one thing I would have loved a little bit more was maybe, and I understand that there's a restriction put on by FFG, but maybe a little bit more involvement in third party prize support. I really thought the prize support for the first LVO was awesome, and the prize
Yeah.
support for the second LVO was like decent, but could have been cool if there was like maybe some terrain given away or some painted third party sculpts, or there was some like alt art, fan made alt arts, or some acrylic stuff that was like third party. Like, get the Etsy guys involved, get the Skullforge involved, get the Imperial terrain and the Legion terrain involved. Like, get all the podcasters to donate some stuff, and like get a really awesome prize pool of third party stuff and hand that stuff out like candy. It was kind of weird getting like year one Stormtrooper spot glosses. I was like, what? Okay. But yeah, that's fine. I'm not complaining. But like last year, I went home with like a painted Vader that was done by like Constantine, and that was like amazing. I walked away with like some acrylic deployment markers. I got the awesome poker chips that we got this year too. But yeah, that's my one thing. Like, get everyone to sponsor it, not just the Fifth Trooper. Like, get all of these guys to sponsor it, and let's just have like a crazy huge prize pool. And like painters, you get, there's 5, 6, 7 guys get painting awards, and there's medals, and there's acrylics, and all this stuff. That would be cool, because that's like a true celebration of the community. That's what I would like to see. I mean, but I'm not complaining. Like, we got a lot of cool swag. I know it was like kind of hard to scale up to like accommodate 3 events and 120 people. Like, I can imagine the nightmare that was. So all things considered, it was an absolutely fantastic event.
Let me float this idea by you, because I was kind of thinking about this on my travel home. So we had bounties.
Mm-hmm.
We got painting. Okay, comment of the night right here. I'm gonna put this up.
Steak and gift cards.
Yeah.
Right. Or some poker chips, right? Or like some casino chips, right?
Well, okay, so that's kind of where I'm going. So we
throw on roulette. Come on,
So we have bounties. We got
Right.
we got painting awards. We don't do sportsmanship, but we could. So what I'm thinking is, why don't, when you go to LVO, why don't you actually have we get tokens, but if they made up some like LVO specific things, that's like, you claim a bounty, you get a poker chip. If you get sportsman, you get a poker chip. If you win the best painter, you get a poker chip. If you so then they almost become like a currency or a commodity at the event, and it's not really about the prestige of getting a alt art or this, but it's about kind of collecting these bounties, right?
Yeah, I love the bounty system.
Yeah,
the bounty system's a great idea. Like,
and then what you could actually do is all those prizes that you're talking about, and it's very much like kind of like an X-wing thing. And I know I don't want to give them out for wins, but I mean, you could. That's what X-wing does, because I don't want it to be any sort of colluded thing where it's like, oh well, I'll give you. I mean, I'm not saying people would, but
right. If you take the win, let me get your ticket.
Chips, exactly.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is the fun ways to collect them, like the sportsmanship, the ridiculous plays. I call the judge the most. I'm just kidding, but I call the judge the most times. I call a few judge times. I think I might have one of the louder judge calls in LVO. That's for sure. I actually literally scared the crap out of the person beside me when I called judge in a game. So my apologies to that person. But yeah. So if you collected up these things, and then what you can actually do is cash them in for things. Right. So it's not about the most prestigious in terms of how you finish, but it's about having fun and doing fun things and cool things, and have that as almost like an LVO exclusive currency. And
you could do like most canonical thematic paint job, most wacky paint job, and have
the judges, or have some key people, even LJ's wife, maybe she's got a stack of them, and over the weekend she can award some, and LJ can award some, and Brendan can award some, and all the judges that did a fantastic job, they can be awarding some. Like, make it something that people are kind of seeing people get, and be like, oh man, that's worth a coin. And maybe what happens, if you have a really fantastic game as a player, I can award my opponent one too. I can be like, man, that was wicked. Here's a coin for them. But like, just make it about that. It's just an idea. It's a silly idea, but just a thought.
Yeah, no, I mean, hey, like I said, the event was run very great. just thinking about like fun things we could do for next year, right? You
Yeah.
know, that is a good idea though. I like that idea. That's fun. I like the idea also like trading stuff around with people,
Yeah.
you know. That's kind of
Well,
cool.
so one of the things that we used to do at ETC and another game system is we would do that. We'd bring our Canadian specific dice. We go to it's a world competition and you bring multiple countries would bring things to trade and I would trade either an objective or I would trade dice or things like that. But it'd be nice to have and maybe that's what happens. Maybe every player ends up getting a couple coins when they start and you could exactly do that like trade coins with people or if maybe there's Imperial Rebel clone and droid coins and if you're a droid player you end up with 3 and you as a droid player can never cash in actual droid coins so you are required to gift them but and you can only acquire them from other people and that way people can't just fun things. I don't know how expensive it would be but if you had to tag on a couple bucks for some sort of cool gimmicky thing I think it'd be kind of cool so
yeah,
I don't think it's Vegas. It's Vegas.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
it's Vegas.
Just seems to fit the the theme, right? So
definitely no, but yeah, hey, it was great, and it can only get better from here. I have a feeling next year is going to be even bigger.
Yeah,
right?
well,
if I can guess, right?
Yeah, if we're going main floor, maybe that's the notoriety of that, and that's one of the disappointing things we had. We had a doubling of players. We were still sort of tucked off, but every person I talked to. That I told them how many people and how big they were all like, whoa, that's getting big, like, or that's huge, or like good, that was really good. Like, I left from here and I met a guy at the airport who was playing 40K, and he asked, and we were talking pre-event, and literally boarding the plane from from Calgary to come back here. I met back up with him again, and he asked me about my weekend. I told him, he's like, man, that's a huge amount of players. And asked him how his weekend go, and we both had great weekends. We played different games. He was very impressed with how big our event was. So we were actually bigger than the 40K casual event. He said they only had 80 players in that one. So so we were rivaling some of the games.
Can I throw one more point out here that actually I think was your idea, Shawn, but I'm just going to say it out loud. What we found out that there were 4 invites that were supposed to be handed out, and all 4 of them were burned.
Yes.
Which is kind of a bummer. What if next year's LVO is just the last chance qualifier?
Yes, and that was an idea that I had. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it makes a ton more sense.
Yeah.
Like
it is like the last big event before Adepticon.
Yeah.
Right?
And like on the calendar, the chronology of it is if LVO and LJ can speak to all this, but and maybe none of this is possible. But the logic here is that if you make LVO similar to a last chance qualifier, I want to know if I'm going to Vegas to earn a spot that I have. I know everyone there had potential to earn it, so I'm not taking that away. But I feel bad that we end up burning a spot, or that I was even any part of burning a spot. But at the same time, I'm going to the event to compete, and I wasn't really thinking about that because I had one, and many people did. So, but if you make LVO the last chance, maybe that's a chance to make LVO even bigger, because more people want to go, more people see the prospects of getting in, and at that point, maybe you actually start solidifying. Okay, we have X amount of people have qualified at this point. We're a month and a half out or 2 months out. We want to have this many people to round out the potential, so we're going to give X number of spots, and maybe it flexes every year. Maybe it's not the same.
Right.
But when you go there, if you go to the last chance qualifier and it's the day before Worlds, I have no opportunity to make any change. So maybe I get a spot, but I don't feel great about my list, or I want to make a tweak, or I want to make a change, or I want to make this, and I want to actually practice or play that list through. I don't have the opportunity from a Friday night to a Saturday, or a Thursday to a Friday. But going to LVO and then having that opportunity to go home and tweak and play, and maybe a new unit comes out that I can change the flavor. But I'm not too far removed from Worlds that I'm probably going to make a hard shift to a new faction. I just think that would be kind of cool, and I don't know if it's feasible, but it's just another idea that I had. So
I mean, even to piggyback on that, even if it was like day 1 of LVO's the last chance qualifier, and you can register for LVO's like 3-day tournament, but you're not allowed to play in day 1 if you have an invite.
Yeah. So
day 2 is for everyone. Right?
Yeah,
everyone left or something.
Yeah, Kyle's making that point right now, and he's just asking if it's the last chance would people not be able to play. But I think that's exactly it. what you could also do is like have that as almost a standalone, and maybe LVO shrinks down where it's just like a Saturday, a big one, and then a Sunday is a cut, or maybe Sunday's a little bit more people make the cut to Sunday, so maybe it's a little bit longer Sunday, but maybe you still do single eliminations. I'm not trying to change the LVO structure.
Or you go. No matter what, we're handing out 4 invites on Friday, 4 invites on Saturday, whether they get passed down. I mean, that's the thing. Just thinking of different ways to do it. I mean, just a thought. It doesn't. It could be anything.
Yeah, and Kyle's pointing out playing hardcore for the flight, and I don't disagree, Kyle. I was I mean, the flight wasn't really a factor for me, nor was the invite, but I was playing just as hard from game one because I was challenging myself to do well. And like I said, I only felt bad because I know some people didn't have invites, and I don't want to knock people. I don't personally want to knock people out along the way if they don't have another chance at it. But at the same time, I think everyone going in knew that they were going to play strong games, tough opponents, good games, and everyone's playing to win. And if you're not there playing to win, then I mean, I'm not saying that's how to have fun. I can have fun losing as well. But when I sit across the table from someone, I'm a fair assumption that we're both playing to win, and I respect that, and I hope somebody respect me for playing to win as well. So,
for sure, yeah, I agree, especially at a big premier tournament like that. Yep.
Yeah. So. So I mean, all good stuff. I have nothing but good experiences to take home from there. Both outside of LVO, inside of LVO. My opponents didn't matter if it was a team event or singles. Hanging out with cool people, hanging out with Joe all weekend. Jeff, Michael, Al. Al was like catching an early flight out because I think he had like another RPQ to get to or something like that. So he's up to 2 a days now. Al has so. Yeah, he's just
collecting those promos, man.
Yeah, just collecting those promos, bro. So, yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, here's an interesting comment. Little Statcast shade on the Legion Academy, brought to you courtesy of Ben Fowler.
Thanks, man.
Yes. And since Ryan paired us up, Ryan's going to move to the casual acquaintance of the podcast. We're promoting Ben to frequent friend of the podcast.
Yeah. Hey, if there's one thing Ryan can pull off that I can't, it's a Fleet Trooper outfit.
That's true. I actually gave him...
makes me Fleet Trooper.
Yeah, I actually gave him a little bit of heck because I was disappointed that A, he didn't have the Fleet Trooper outfit, and 2, that we didn't get to play. So, yeah. Fair. So I think we're probably pretty good. We went hour 50 here, but I mean, like I said, we hung out with 30 awesome people or more all weekend, getting lots of laughs in there from chat. 22 thumbs, 20 hearts tonight, and one either crying or laughing so hard you're crying face. We're gonna go with crying. Somebody probably didn't appreciate one of our comments for sure, but. Gotta say it again, hashtag in the box, brought to you by Jeff Arney. So if you play that guy, just clarify which day you're playing on and what the exact icebox rule is. And yeah, so that's about it. Oh,
all right.
Awesome. Oh, wait a second. We got one last minute question here.
Okay.
So I have a question. I saw pictures from LVO on Facebook. And what is the rest of the question, Ken?
Uh-oh.
Waiting. Oh, here you go. And here it is. Shawn, are you really tall, or was everyone else just really short? Well, it's a combination. I was standing on several phone books, and I think most of the guys were on their knees. But no, I just happened to be in the. It was the height restriction wasn't in effect on Friday, so I think more of the shorter stature individuals played on Friday. So. No, it's just how it went. I'll tell you that height is great for reaching across the table, but man, it's killer on the back when you got to play on low tables. So
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Ben Fowler is also pointing out that he has hugged Shawn in real life. He is tall, as is Joe. Awesome. So love all these personal feelings and statistics that get shared out here about
Thanks,
you and
man.
I. It's awesome. It's awesome that you guys. Love to share those things with us. I would say just before we go, the number of people who came up, as you pointed out about Friday night fights, they love the They loved the shirts. We had a great presence of Legion Academy shirts, so thanks to all those folks who are rocking the Legion Academy shirts. Shawn's not tall; he's sitting on the tauntaun. That is also quite accurate. So, yeah, it was just really cool and there was a ton of people wearing a ton of stuff, so it was really cool to kind of see the teams. I saw a lot of even in the team event, people had matching shirts, which is cool.
Yeah.
You guys were rocking the 312th Legion jerseys. Michael
Yep.
and I were rocking Terrain Studio shirts. We went Legion Academy Friday. I did mine on Sunday as well. So it was a ton of fun. Kyle pointing out, as a fellow short person, getting line of sight in the middle of the table sucks. Also, Kyle, I kind of felt bad for you and Luke having to reach for that dice box. I mean, you guys bounced dice out of there like crazy. And you couldn't count the ones that were on the floor because you're not Jeff Arney, but you guys were constantly forced to re-roll those, and I felt a little bit bad about that. So yeah, crazy. But we're gonna wrap it up here, folks. Hit us up in chat or on our page if you want to come on our roundtable to talk LVO. I mean, there's a ton of people. I'd love to have Kyle on, Brad, all those other people. I don't want to miss anyone, but if you guys are in there and you guys want to come on and do roundtable LVO, I think that would be fantastic. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's it for me tonight, guys. Joe, anything last from you?
No, just want to say thanks, everyone. And LVO was a great event. And thanks for hanging out with us tonight. And thanks for continuing to listen and support. And we'll see you Friday night.
Awesome. Yes, let me put up a couple last-minute promos here. We do have, again, Friday night fights this Friday, 7 p.m. Skirmish, be there. I'm not sure who we're going to have in for commentators. It'll be myself and Joe, probably another couple guests. Maybe we'll spoil some stuff through the week if we get some hard confirms on that. And then just once again, folks, thanks for supporting the show. There's many ways that you can do it. One is by viewing. If you want to make any pledge donations to us, we are looking for one more camera to add to our stream. Michael and Nathan have been gracious that we got us at 120 credits on our way to 700 to purchase that. PayPal's at the bottom, but we do appreciate everything that comes in. So we will catch you guys in the next stream, and thanks for watching. Cheers.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.